Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lynn McKenzie, and I'm the immigration lead here at Relocation Africa. Now, our business has been around for 27 years, and we have been providing services across Africa, and our immigration division in particular supports various categories of temporary and permanent visas. Study, visitor, and business visas, work visas, permanent residence, and exit visas for the continent of Africa. But I'm very excited to announce that after 27 years and building off the success of our existing immigration division, we are proud to launch our outbound services. Whether you would like to work, retire, invest, and or start a new life, Relocation Africa would be happy to help you embrace the unknown. Our team and associated partners in these respective jurisdictions would provide seamless facilitation of your immigration needs. Now, our topic today, which I'm very excited about, is the immigration landscape in the UK. I would like to welcome our partner, Antonio, who works with Relocation Africa to fulfill these cases. He is our expert in UK immigration and will be sharing with us some pertinent information pertaining to our topic today. Welcome, Antonio. Thanks so much for being here. How are you?
Well, great. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, great. No, thank you so much for being here. And we're so excited to hear about all the updates going on with regards to immigration in the UK. COVID is a big topic, obviously has been for a long time and continues to be. Can you give us a brief insight into current immigration policies and procedures that are in place as a result of COVID?
Absolutely. There are loads that's happening because of COVID. I think at the start of March, we were scrambling. We were all very worried as immigration professionals. What are we going to do next for everyone? And then a whole bunch of policy came through, which are very extremely favorable as a result. And you can imagine, because a lot of people are stuck in the country.
Yes.
We've got everything from 3-month entry visas instead of a month. So generally, people who apply for a visa must come into the UK within 1 month of getting the vignette on their passport. To collect their biometric residence permit so they can activate their visa effectively. Now, this has been extended to 3 months to allow sufficient time for the individual to come in. So that's one concession that's very much welcomed by a lot of the applicants. Then we have people who are, stuck not because of the lockdown in the UK, but lockdown in other countries or exit rules, entry rules. So the UK has given, I think about 3 or even the 4th sort of extension of stay as a result of COVID. So those who are, running out of stay effectively get an automatic extension, or by getting a special permission to remain in the UK for the purpose of just staying in the UK because of COVID. Now, of course, UK is easing in terms of, despite our latest lockdown, easing in terms of the COVID process. So there is something called exceptional assurance that the Home Office, or effectively immigration authorities, have agreed, which means that there is no action to be taken for those effectively forced to stay in the UK as a result of COVID. Now, this could be an array of situations where the country is closed, or because of their health issues, that they cannot leave the country, or simply because they just didn't have the opportunity because they were under self-isolation, or so on and so forth. So there's that concession that's there.
Okay.
And I suppose one that is slightly more celebrated is there are a lot of visa types that require someone to go back home or to their home country or country of residence to apply into the UK. Now, this has almost been scrapped in a lot of cases, especially during the early parts of COVID, where they can effectively switch from within the country, even though they might be a visitor and you can't switch normally. They allowed in a certain time frame to allow them to switch over to work category, for example. Now, this is eased back a bit, or rather taken back a bit now. But even then, for those who have leave that is expiring after the 31st of October, they can still switch category in this manner effectively, and they don't need to go back home. But of course, they have to show that it's
so they can do it within country. Okay.
They can do it in country, but they have to show that there's an urgent need for them to do that. And that's mainly because of work or study. So there's still some concessions left, let's just say. But certainly the assurance of the fact that if you overstay as a result of COVID, of course, uncontrollable side of things, then the immigration authority is not going to take any adverse inference to your overstaying, which I think is something that is very much needed at a time when everybody needs a bit of help and a bit of easement.
I think so. I think that's also what a lot of jurisdictions are doing now to be able to accommodate those people that, unfortunately, things are out of people's control right now. So some of these authorities have to play ball and support.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of immigration authorities, how's processing? Are applications being processed? Are there any delays because of everything that's been happening in the last few months?
I suppose there has been a lot of delays in terms of because of the lockdown. Things are shut, and so people aren't able to provide biometric details at certain centres and so on and so forth. And that's been happening for a few months. And I think from July onwards, we aren't seeing much of that sort of type of delay. In fact, processing for a lot of cases that we can see so far, especially in relation to work and so on and so forth, are very quick. And that also depends on jurisdiction to jurisdiction. I think, I deal a lot with the Indian side of things, for example, and they're superb. They're superbly quick. They're open. Most of the centers now are open following, COVID. Yeah, so they're still processing as normal. Priority service has resumed in most of the overseas visa application centers. The only thing, whilst within the UK, we've still suspended the priority service, but we are not seeing dramatic delays. There are a backlog of cases, but most of the backlog actually doesn't come from the standard immigration applications that you would see. I mean, we see some, but not a huge amount of backlog. But we see a lot of backlog in terms of the European cases. So European, of course, Brexit is coming. There's a big B word there. B word, that's a huge one there that we're looking at. Absolutely. And people are scrambling to apply for status, even though they have up to June, but there's voluminous amount, of course, of applications coming in. And we're seeing a huge delay both from overseas coming to the UK and also European nationals who are within the UK trying to apply for their status. So, effectively, it's just a process of processing them because of the volume rather than because of COVID. But that's the real delays we're seeing. But other than that, for some countries, Canada, India, or even Australia, even with their tight sort of lockdown in Victoria, we are seeing processing times just literally slightly delayed, but not, a dramatic, it's not depressing at all in that sense. So we're quite happy to see that. Yeah, so that's the thumbs up from me, I guess, which don't happen a lot in terms of immigration processing and myself. So here we go.
Very much so, very much so. But I mean, UK immigration, I mean, people just sort of hear about it, especially here in South Africa. I mean, a lot of people do want to relocate to the UK. People have family there. They want to study there. They want to start a business there. So I want to take it back to sort of UK immigration 101. So what authorities and different departments are sort of in charge in enforcing immigration policies and procedures? Can you give us a little bit of on the administrative part there?
Yeah, and that's why I love being an immigration lawyer in the UK, because I have to say, as much as I always say immigration rules and immigration authorities are complex to deal with, they're probably one of the more simplistic ones to deal with. There's really one department that we have to deal with, which is UK visas and immigration. So they are the authorities effectively who enforces or look after the immigration rules, so to speak. Of course, the legislation is dealt with by Parliament through primary legislation and secondary legislation by the Home Secretary. But nonetheless, in terms of the actual operator, it will be the Home Office, or what we call the Home Office, or UK visas and immigration. And they're one department across the world. Absolutely. Well, mind you, they keep changing brands. So here we go.
Oh, that's so interesting. And then how much discretion do they have when they are adjudicating these cases?
Yeah, again, it's a sore topic for depending on lawyer to lawyer, I think, or advisor to advisor. I come from a background where everything was very subjective. Back literally a decade and a half ago, everything has to be reason. You have to provide reason, and the rules are very thin, and the rules are thickening and it's adding on to things. Some are good, some are bad. But I'm seeing a trend of going in a way, I wouldn't say backwards, but more towards subjective view of how immigration cases are looked at. Which means, whilst you have the rules laid out in terms of your requirements, you would have heard, of course, a lot of our newspapers and media would say, this new point-based system, which is supposed to be a very objective exercise of applying points.
Yes.
It's not that objective in the sense of, well, you either meet those points or you don't meet those points. So those points you don't. So it's not much of a point-based system, so to speak. But I suppose the buzzword for 2021 to beyond is genuineness. Now, when somebody say genuineness, automatically you think, well, how is that measured? And that's where the subjectiveness comes in.
Right.
So there are very limited guidance, I would say. I mean, they've listed out what is genuine in terms of genuine vacancy for a job, or genuine representative of an overseas business, what that means. So there are some guidance on
a good faith standard then, I would imagine.
Well, I would almost say that's the case. So it's a mixture of the guidance that they provided, of the point forms of what they consider as genuine, to what your business looks like in terms of the structure or how you run your business, all the way through to the actual vacancy or the role itself, as to what the perception is. Now, one would hope, of course, that they look at it, they look at the rules, uniformly, in the sense of, we should consider all those ways. But unfortunately, from experience, when you look at the subjective realm of consideration, it's never one size fits all. And we have had that experience in the past when we had this entrepreneur visa, which has now been taken away, or rather cancelled off the rules. And that sort of genuineness has caused a lot of concerns for a lot of applicants, because they don't know effectively what's coming, even though, there are things that are written within the guidance and the rules. And that's where the complexity is. And that's how I'm seeing in terms of how the UK Visa and Immigration, or the Home Office, is going back towards that realm, which is considering it in a slightly more subjective light. Now, I see the reason for it, and I do celebrate the fact that they look at what genuineness is, because I think it's very essential for every immigration system to have that. But we have yet to, I suppose, test how subjective it can
really
get.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, so far we've been very fortunate, and that may well be based on the quality of clients that we have and the quality of the cases that they have.
Yeah.
I will pat myself on the back on the level of advice that we have provided, but nonetheless, I think it's the quality. But so far we have been seeing good results in that sense. Is as long as things looks logical, then they accept it as logical. So in a way, yes, there is a subjective element, but it's not overshadowed by some of the objective rules that are out there, or some of the objective guidance that they've provided. So yeah, but they do have quite a lot of authority, I would say.
Yes. That's interesting. I mean, just jamming onto that sort of business focus, to the genuineness of businesses, assuring that everything is aligned. Are there any particular industries that are more favored than others? And if so, how is that adjudicated? I'm just very curious always to know, do people come and say, oh, what business is more favorable than another? How should I label it? How should I market it? How should I, what's going to give me the best and easiest way to get myself a visa?
Absolutely. I would say, as a practitioner, I would say UK has one good thing, which is they look at every industry almost in an equal light, irrespective. So it is, if we're subjective to everyone, or if we're objective with everyone, which means at least yeah, the uncertainty stands for everyone, so we can all sit in the same boat and go woof, or yay, it's happening.
Yes.
But in a way, there are certain industries that are celebrated at the moment, or bolstered at the very least, I would say. You can imagine from as a result of COVID, the health sector is something that we are definitely promoting at the moment, and there's a lot more green light than we would see in the past. This is a combination of course, us realizing that doctors, nurses, and a lot of the care workers that are in the UK are overseas workers. Yes, we rely on local workforce, but also, a huge majority of them are also overseas workers, the expertise that they bring to us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of doctors that at one point the quota, which is now gone, which is really fortunate, was met. And so some of the doctors and nurses were hampered by coming to the UK as a result. So we have that sort of shortage. And so they made it a shortage effectively in terms of shortage applications. Yeah, so which is very good. And of course, as a result of COVID, we keep celebrating, NHS and getting together as a community. And they're right in doing that. And so the government has introduced a health and care visa, which means it's faster, simpler processing, as well as, the most important thing, I guess, is cheaper processing. So, the fees are less, something called immigration health or skill surcharge, a lot less. So, there's a lot of sort of benefits as a result of being a health worker, so to speak, as long as they work for the NHS or certain category.
Good news. That's more encouraging for applicants at that point, I would imagine.
Absolutely, because they're respected as not just respected as a trade, of course, and every trade should be, every industry should be, but we know the importance of it, and therefore,
Yes.
immigration rules are dynamic enough, or at least the ministers are dynamic enough to understand that we have to stretch things when we need to
Yes.
stretch things, and this is how it's done. But of course, there's always a long-term goal for the UK, which is to attract the best and the brightest. And
Yes.
I've been hearing this sort of phrase from Theresa May days, for very long ago, and the STEM subject, the science, the maths,
Yep.
the engineering and digital sector are very much celebrated in the
Very much
UK.
so.
We want to attract it from all the world. It doesn't matter where they're from. But in particular, we are hearing a lot of news, in particular my side of things. I work a lot with Indian community,
Yeah.
the startups, the decacons, the gig economy effectively. And those are the guys that celebrated. And we're seeing an increase of SMEs that are in that sort of region coming to the UK, because that is being publicized at the moment, that is being celebrated at the moment, and we
Yes.
want to attract that field, especially, again, the big B word. We do need as many fortes as possible.
Yes, of course, of course. That's so nice that the communities and the authorities are embracive of that. I think that gives people such a new wave and almost motivation, like in some way, that they can continue doing, whatever they want to do, and they get to do that in the UK. I mean, that's really great to hear. So what type of visas are available in terms of short-term or visitors visas? Say you have an applicant who's looking to, go for a business meeting or receive some training, or can you give us a little insight into those various types of short-term work, and if there is such thing as short-term work or visitors visas?
Yeah, again, and that's where I really love being a UK, country specialist, because the visitor rules actually is quite dynamic here. It's very much extendable, and we do lay out some very, very clear permissible activities. So whilst you go to another country, you might not be very sure what the permissible activities are. We actually lay them out,
Yeah.
and yeah, and a huge array of that, to be frank. So you can the normal business visitor, and most people would only associate with business meetings or attending trade conferences, or maybe less stretched to a board meeting and then have to fly back home. In the UK, we can do training effectively for if you have a company which is based, let's just say, in South Africa, but also in the UK, and somebody from South Africa needs to provide some training, let's just say, to the UK. They can come in as a visitor and provide training, for example, for a short period of time, of course, but that is permissible as a permissible activity. There are things from research for medical research. There's private medical visit visas that one can go for, marriage visas, prospective entrepreneurs. There's a wide array of things that, yeah, indeed, that you can do. Receive training if you are part of a global, provide training if you are part of you've signed up to a contract to a global training session for a company, UK being part of that geography, you can come in to do training. So there's quite a lot, and it doesn't just stretch from business itself, it's stretched to creative people as well. So if you have a gig that you're coming in, there are paid permitted activities that you can come into Glastonbury, for example, to do a sing-song. Unfortunately, I'm not qualified enough to sing, so I will never have experienced that. But
if you could just pick a tune right now, I am ably waiting.
Yeah, I would love to, but people would just start running away, I'll tell you that. Karaoke was never my strong point, unfortunately. I wish it was. I tried.
I should start a show. I don't know if you've seen them with the karaoke. And it's like we could do Zoom karaoke shows. I think that would be awesome.
That'll be fun,
Get
actually.
all the location people onto it. I want to see who the hidden talents are.
Yeah.
But Antonio, so that's a really great landscape right there, just in terms of those different various visitors visas and how people can come in for those particular businesses and purposes. So are there any citizens that are sort of exempted? Does the UK have any exemptions for particular countries or nationals that can come in for those types of visas?
Absolutely. I mean, well, all nationals effectively could come in and use those permissible activities, let's just say for visitors, for example. So some will require visa prior to coming in, and some don't. For those who need to do, we'll have a list. Again, we have something called a visa national list, which is again really well publicized. And unfortunately, South Africa, I think, is one of the visa nationals. So they will need to apply for a prior visa to come to the UK. But for a lot of countries like Europe, for example, Canada, Australia, America, they won't need the prior visa to come into the UK as a visitor. So really, it's about your intent, and you can effectively entry through port, and that's it. So there are some benefits to that, and the list is not huge in terms of the visa national list either. So we are quite a welcoming country, so to speak, in that sense.
I see. I'm surprised South Africa's not on there. I feel like there's so many South Africans in the UK that pretty much.
Absolutely. I think it should be visa free for all, to be honest. It's a lot easier. Well, I mean, the general rule is, if you come into the UK for more than 6 months, you need a visa anyway, respectively.
Yeah, that's true.
So, if anybody who's coming less than 6 months, why not?
Yeah, just make sure everybody's compliant and you're good to go. So with regards, we have the short-term work visitors, the people who are exempted, who can come in for up to 6 months. What about those guys and gals that want to work long-term? So what are the main type of long-term visas that you usually facilitate?
Yeah, there are 3 types, I would say, in terms of for work purposes, other than those high net worth individuals come in under a different category of visas. But for normal work visas, we look at something called representative of an overseas business, which we do quite a lot of. And that really helps to facilitate senior employee of an overseas business who wants to come to the UK, or who's been tasked by the overseas business to come to the UK to set up the first branch or subsidiary in the UK. Okay. So it's a very old rule, and it's a very useful rule, because a lot of companies would want to have that sort of footing on the ground. They want to dip their toes in that little UK pond, effectively, to see how effective it is, and how it can expand into Europe. And that's generally the business plan for these businesses. And so they send the first trusted person and one of the senior employees over to the UK, and they can use this route. The good thing about it is they can stay here for 3 years. They can extend it, and potentially the senior employee of this business, who's now effectively running this greenfield project, could permanently reside in the UK as well to continue to operate this subsidiary or branch. So that's one of the most popular routes that we've been seeing, and increasingly so as business goes abroad effectively. Yeah. Then you have established businesses in the UK. You have your local businesses, or already subsidiary of a business here in the UK, and they do a lot of times require, obviously, workers, sponsoring workers to come over for that talent training, whatever may be their business plan. And what we used to call the tier 2 visas was part of that program. Yeah. Indeed. And now they've changed it. Again, it's very much similar, but much more favorable, I would say, in terms of rules. Skill level is less, the salary threshold is less, and we now call them the skilled worker visa and the intra-company routes. So as you can imagine from the title, the name skilled worker means, people who are skilled workers could come into the UK, and they are allowed to settle in the UK as well after a period of 5 years. And they're hired into the company. For intra-company transfer, is really about transferring that skill set. Yeah. So people who have worked for the overseas business, and there is already an establishment in the UK which can sponsor them, but require the skills, they can transfer effectively or sign these people for a long-term basis over to the UK, which is absolutely brilliant. And although they can't effectively remain in the UK permanently, so to speak, the cooling off is not that bad. We're really looking at 5 years out of 6 years you can remain in the UK, and if you're certain salary threshold, which is about 73,900 or more, then you can stay up to 9 years out of a 10-year period for intra-company transfer. So that's a long time. And yeah, absolutely, it's almost settlement, so to speak. But then, of course, the skilled worker route allows settlement, which means you can stay indefinitely as a skilled worker if you want, or after 5 years you can get settlement anyway. So it's brilliant. So it really, absolutely, and I think that's the whole point of the system now, is to bring some security to staff, to employees that are coming into the UK, knowing that they can be in the UK for a long-term basis. They can actually do what they need to do, rather than, you can only be here for 6 months, or you can only be here for 12 months and you need to jet off, whatever,
Yes. And with regards to those, are there any prior approvals that they would need before they can apply for that type of visa, whether it be the skilled migrant or the ICT?
Yeah, so for sole representative, for example, it's really looking at the overseas business, the financial aspect of it, the business aspect of it, and it's really about the individual applying for the visa in that regard, with a lot of voluminous amount of documents, mountain loads of documents, of course, but that's the visa itself,
Always.
and that's the fun part. The intra-company transfer and the skilled worker has the same DNA. So the company in the UK would require something called sponsor license. So they will first need to apply for a sponsor license.
Hey.
So the sponsor license is a really special thing, and I always steal one of the famous comic sort of line is, with great powers come with great responsibility, because that is exactly what the Home Office wants from these employees as well. Is, can you prove that you have the responsibility, or you can take up the responsibility as a sponsor, and they will check through audits and everything else, and if they are, they will grant them that license, and that license lasts 4 years, and it's renewable every 4 years.
Okay.
And once they have that, they will need to apply for effectively a certificate of sponsorship for each of the workers. So effectively a work permit, so to speak, but in electronic form. And once that is assigned, then the individual can carry that. And if they meet the immigration rules, they can then apply for a visa for entry to the UK.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's more like a 3-stage process, so to speak.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like that. I mean, in most of these work permit paths, there is prior steps before you can actually apply for the visa itself, the work permit itself. It's either labor or it's the sponsorship step, or whatever the case may be. So that's very interesting. Thank you for breaking that down with us. You know, people are really looking to the future now, Antonio. It is December 2020, which means that in less than 30 days, we're saying bye-bye to 2020. Thank goodness. Although I will say that it hasn't been all bad. I'm sure we've all learned a great deal this year about ourselves, business perspective, everything. But I would like for you to recommend from sort of a business perspective right now, as companies are either thinking of restructuring or planning for, expats to be relocated in different jurisdictions, but particularly in yours, what would you recommend to them to plan in the future regarding the movement of their people, their businesses, now with all the B word and everything that's coming in January?
Yeah, I think to be frank with you, with any business, we have to be we have to be dynamic. We have to expect the unexpected almost. I mean, even running my business, I can sort of see, there are certain, plan A, plan B that I need to merge together to do it. And for movement of people, it's exactly the same. We're not looking at the same way that we're working anymore. We don't all go to an office, sit from 9 to 5, 9 to 9 in a lot of circumstances, and then go home. So a lot of home working, a lot of digital working. So in terms of planning workforce, in terms of planning, restructuring and so on and so forth, it's really looking at not just your 1-year business plan, a 3-year business plan, but actually look at an overall of how you want to run your business, because it's not just the UK. I mean, even though I advise UK immigration and I welcome everybody in the UK, and I think, UK can accommodate with its favorable immigration rules a lot of people to work, but it's not just about the UK, it's about global working. So it's really looking down at how lean you want to go in terms of your workforce. Why you really want that person to be in the UK, and what benefit is it going to bring to the business as a result of the person being in a certain jurisdiction. So I think with any client that I work with, I don't just work with them on the UK. I would say to them, look at the other jurisdiction that you have offices or you plan to open offices. Can these people have that agile movement of moving from one place to another? And how many do you need? So it's a lot about planning. It's a lot about focusing on what is needed rather than what is wanted or what is the normal course of action.
Exactly. There's that essential element now that everybody in front of everybody's forefront of their mind. Is this essential? Is it cost effective? Is it, like you said, want versus need, the benefit, the future benefit for the business that's happening there. So that is very great insight there. But I mean, essentially, like you said, plan A, plan B. Flexibility is key. Like, businesses need to be flexible right now, especially when new systems and processes are coming into place in so many different avenues that we're kind of doing the pay as you go kind of thing, right? So just winging it just a little bit, but trying to facilitate and implement them the best that we can and advise clients accordingly. So I think that's really great advice at this point to see how businesses are going to be moving forward in the future. Is there, as we wrap up, is there anything else that you wish to share with our listeners, like within the parameters of our topic today?
Yeah, I think let's not forget about the B word. B is coming. B is come and gone, and the end of transition is also coming very, very shortly, in literally less than a month. For those businesses that have businesses in the UK already, they really ought to look at the European workforce if they haven't. And I think that's something that European workers need to know. What you're going to plan, are you going to have more European workers? Look at, some of the favorable system there are called European Settlement Scheme. Can they qualify now? If you need workers from Europe and that's your normal flow of employees, for example, should you bring them in before the 31st of December so they can get easier status rather than using the immigration rules, which can be a bit more complex, with sponsor licensing and all that stuff. So that's one thing to look at. For business wanting to come to UK, really want to say, and again, I'm going to be ambassador here in a way, is UK is definitely open for business. I think the rules that we have seen so far has been a lot more, actually not a bit, but a lot more favorable than what it used to be even 10 years ago, which is in a way quite surprising to me. Of course, with that sort of easiness comes with the subjective side that we discussed earlier. Yeah. So the buzzwords of genuineness, also compliance will all come into it. So careful planning, but I think, don't discount any, jurisdiction, not UK, it's one of them, but don't discount any, because I think governments will follow suit as the world grapples hold of the COVID scenario, and as that eases, economy will open up, and I think policy would definitely change in line with it to ensure that each of our respective countries will be much more attractive than what it used to be.
Yes, well, that's just a great way to end on that positive note. People must just remain optimistic. That's what we need to do, remain positive and embrace the unknown, as we like to say here at Relocation Africa. But thank you again, Antonio, for joining me today. I am sure all our viewers will find the information just invaluable. And just to remind, if you would like assistance with UK immigration or any other immigration matters, you're most welcome to contact us via immigration@relocationafrica.com and visit our website via www.relocationafrica.com. I always get that wrong, but anyway. Thank you so much again, Antonio. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye, everybody. Please stay safe and healthy. We'll see you next time.